Back when I was in college, I used to walk around with fat pockets. Somebody said to me, "Hey, you better watch out. Somebody's going to steal." And I said, "Let him. It's just lint." If you're that same person, let's talk today on StarRow. Now, for those of you who've been walking around feeling like you've got lint in your pockets, today's video is going to be for you. And if you have more than just lint, candy, then share it with us. But anyways, you can listen as well. But anyways, we're going to talk about being broke and how being broke can be your origin story. It doesn't always have to be the end of you. 48.6% of Americans consider themselves broke. So that's nearly half. So if you felt like you've been broke for a while, don't worry. A lot of other people are in the same boat. So even if you see people walking around and they're pretending to act like they're rich, chances are they probably feel broke too. So don't believe everything you see, kids. Always check, all right? Anyways, I'm just gonna, jump into it real quick. This video is not gonna be too deep. This is just really to motivate. I'm not a licensed financial advisor, but I definitely do want to motivate you, and I just want to give you some perspective. Maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't, but I think perspective is always a good thing. Anyways, so being broke, the first thing it does is that. Have you ever heard the saying, "Pressure makes diamonds"? Pressure making diamonds is very important. Because if you think about it, guys, when you're broke, you're at your most creative. Imagine, like, if you've ever been hungry before, you know what you'll do to get food in your belly. You'll do almost anything. And it's the same thing for those without money. If you can turn the fact that you're broke into an idea of creativity, you'll be surprised with what you can come up with. People have done a lot of things just to get out of poverty, and some of it's been bad, unfortunately. So don't do that. But what I want you to think is that when you don't have much, think of life as this. You have almost nothing to lose, except for your dignity, really. Because when you think you have nothing to lose, you can take more chances and feel comfortable with the risk. I think too many times people are worried about it not working. And technically speaking, if you feel like you have nothing, right? This is only if you feel like you have nothing. If you feel like you have nothing, and let's say you try something and you fail, you're not going to be any different. You're still going to have nothing. But now if you can actually try and succeed, then you've actually taken the opportunity to get to success. Think about it like this. The only place is up when you're on bottom, when you're on the bottom, okay? When you're at the bottom, you can only go up from there. There's no such thing as bottom to the bottom again. The only thing that might bother you is that if you fail, you might have some people who will critique you, but at the end of the day, you can't let what people think get in the way of your success. So failing is very important. And just think, if you don't fail, you'll never try and you'll miss all the shots that you take. I have a video on why failure is a great teacher. But also, too, I just want to expand on some knowledge from somebody who I admire and I respect. Christopher Gardner, for those of you who don't remember him, he is actually the main person in the Pursuit of Happiness movie that starred Will Smith and Jaden Smith in the early 2000s. And I'm actually going to reference a quote from his book, Start From Where You Are. And I think this quote does a good job of summing up what I'm saying right now. But it hit me one day that it was time to stop worrying about what could go wrong because it was keeping me from dreaming about what could go right. So at the end of the day, when you have nothing and you're trying to create an opportunity for yourself, don't think about all the things that are going bad or, that are going to go wrong. Always try to think about what could go right. And Chris Gardner is a great example of this because, for those of you who are familiar with his story, I recommend you check it out if you haven't. This gentleman was a guy who lived in San Francisco, if I'm not mistaken. He became homeless. He also was raising a son. He was like a white collar homeless person. It's a crazy story. I mean, he got an internship that only one person was guaranteed a job out of, I don't know, over 50 people. And, this gentleman ends up getting this job while being homeless and taking care of his son to start his own private equity firm and become a multimillionaire. Now, of course, that's not everybody's story, but the point is that a lot of other people can also achieve maybe better success. Maybe they won't achieve $300 million worth of success, but they'll achieve maybe $60,000 worth, at least enough to get them out of poverty or get them into a middle class. Uh, but anyways, just think, always know when you're at the bottom, you can't get any worse than that. You always look as to say, I'm gonna go up if I try something different, or I'm gonna do better. Always try to go up. So, with that being said, being broke allows you to have genuine appreciation for things and people. Me personally, when I was in college, I had no money, like typical other college students, but I was broker than most college students. I mean, most college students, the stereotype is that you're usually spending your money going to bars, to clubs, eating out, taking a bunch of trips and stuff like that during the vacations. Guys, I didn't have a lot of money. I couldn't do all the fancy things that even college kids were doing. I pretty much had to stay home. I did the whole ramen noodle thing, cook my own meals. I was fortunate to even be able to get like a burger on the weekends. That was like a treat for me. And I was depressed. I used to see a lot of the other students doing the things that, made them happy on their free time, and I couldn't participate. And when I could, it was like a huge treat to me. And I didn't want to tell anybody because, I knew my financial situation would have probably been a little embarrassing, or at least I thought it was embarrassing. Uh, but long story short, what I did realize is that I was able to garner some genuine relationships with people. And when I say genuine, I actually found the people who appreciated me for who I was because I couldn't afford to buy anybody's approval. I was flat broke. So anybody who was talking to me and willing to invest in me, given what I could do, which was near to nothing, that meant a lot to me. And it always taught me, especially now, currently where I'm at, I have a decent job, and I mean, I'm not rich, but I'm not broke either. I've learned that there are people out there who will value me for who I am and not value me for what I can do for them. And I would not have been able to learn that lesson if I didn't have any money. Because think, all of your famous celebrity, idols, most of those people, they're surrounded by people who want to be their friend for the status they have and what they can do for them. And that's something that gets robbed from you when you have a lot of money, is that it's hard to understand where people's true intentions lie and how you're going to be able to actually, find your true friends. So being broke helped me find true friends. Being broke also helped me understand to appreciate things. I got my apartment. I slept on the floor for several months. I had to save money to buy a mattress. I, I did a lot of things that I had to go without. I bought my first car. Um, I did not have my parents did not get me a car. I bought my first car, and obviously it felt really good. I remember working. I remember getting that car, and I took pictures of it. I don't have it anymore now. I have another vehicle now, but I'll never forget that car because I remember all the sacrifice and effort that I had to put into getting it. And with that being said, as I've even made more money, I tend to not judge people by what they drive, or I don't really care as much as to what I drive because I've learned how hard it is to be able to have a car, and not everybody can have one. So I see it as a privilege. And I say that to not sound like this super virtuous person, but sometimes there's struggle and hardship can be the only teachers as to what really matters in life. Because when you have everything given to you, you take it for granted and you start to think it's an expectation or it's something that you're entitled to. But when you have had to go without, you start to understand the value of having things there. And being broke is something that you can use to, capitalize on. Now, Chris Gardner has a great quote that I want to share with you guys. Quote, he says, I resist these magic wand approaches to happiness that advertise overnight success and easy money. Is that they undermine the importance of purpose, struggle, sacrifice, planning, and discipline required for succeeding in most meaningful undertakings. Now, with that being said, a lot of the times, again, you want to go from being broke to maybe being rich. Let's say if your status is that you feel broke, and you want to go from being secure. Well, that's a little easier to do because what you'd have to do then is you just have to stop spending as much, probably move, downsize your living standards, and get a better job. And that's pretty much the straightway plan. I mean, easier said than done, but that's pretty much what you'd have to do. But if you're somebody who's wanting to become rich, you're broke and you want to have a rags to riches story. The reality is the process is a part of this, and the process is not easy. It's a lot of sacrifice. It's a lot of hardship. I actually have another video talking about millionaire myths because as I've decided to improve my own life, I've gotten to know a lot of millionaires, and I've had great conversations with them about what it's really like to be a millionaire. Not the whole social media glitz and glamour. I'm talking about actual millionaire, lifestyle of regular people, okay? Not the celebrity nonsense. But anyways, guys, with all that being said and done, if you feel like you're going through financial hardships right now, don't worry, you're not alone. Just remember, use this time right now to be genuine with yourself. You have a lot of window for success right now, because anything that's better will put you in a better mindset and in a better position to succeed. So do not take it for granted. Appreciate the people who are there for you right now, because I assure you, if you start to succeed, more people will show up, and sometimes you'll never know if those people really have your back and their intentions are pure. So anybody who's really supporting you right now, don't take that for granted. Appreciate them. Of course, if let's say if your life does change and then they start to become a drag on you, then you may have to cut them loose. But all in all, you should always learn to appreciate those who are there right now. And with that being said, guys, I just want you guys to have a wonderful rest of the night. Try your best, do your best, and always remember, success is right around the corner. Just keep pushing and keep striving. And also, comment down below if any failures have taught you any valuable lessons. I'm curious to know. All right, guys, StarRow, peace out.